Hello, hi, I'm Xavier Baker from Mermaid Gin, Isle of Wight Distillery. Here we have our 10 botanicals that's in Mermaid Gin. We've got our rock samphire that we've just foraged a couple of hours ago on the south coast of the island. The rock samphire is our main local Isle of Wight botanical that gives the Mermaid Gin its sort of hint of sea air. And often people say it reminds them of being on holiday, conjuring up happy memories of being on the beach, sailing, being on the island. We then have the juniper berries, these ones here. So the juniper is, again, by law, must be the most dominant flavour in gin. We buy these from Macedonia. There's, I understand, 8 juniper bushes on the island, but we can't take those juniper berries. The locals would know where they've gone if we do. But we are working with the botanical gardens on the island, Ventnor Botanical Gardens, and they're looking at growing some juniper bushes there as well. So down the line, we might have some local Isle of Wight juniper berries. We've then got coriander seeds. So these are the first English commercially grown coriander seeds, grown just over the water in Sussex. These give a very like citrus note to the gin. I didn't realise when coming up with the formula, the recipe of the Mermaid Gin in the beginning, how much of a citrus note that the coriander seeds will give. We then have our lemons. So we use organic, unwaxed lemons. Most gins will have a citrus component in them, whether it be orange, grapefruit, lime, lemon. A lot of distilleries will use the dried lemon peel. We use the fresh zest. So each distillation will zest the lemons into the still for a 24-hour maceration. We find that just gives our gin a nice, vibrant, citrus, zesty note to it as well. We then have the Angelica root. So this is the Angelica root here. So it's the dried root. That has a very sort of like woody, slightly spicy, earthy character to it. The reason for using the Angelica root, it does have a flavour contribution to the gin, but also it's a binding agent. So all the botanicals here, when they've been near enough boiled for 7 or 8 hours in the still, the Angelica just helps bring all those botanical oils together. We also have here the Boadicea hops. So these are grown on the Ventnor Botanical Gardens on the cliff. The Boadicea hops, again, being a brewer, just to have a little note to being a brewer, have a small amount of hops in the gin, only a tiny amount, and just feel they pair well with the Angelica root. So the character of the Boadicea hops is slightly spicy, slightly earthy, so those two work well together. We then have grains of paradise, these ones here. So they look like peppercorns, they're actually family to the ginger plant. And they give our gin a slight spicy, peppery note. We wanted to have a slight sort of peppery spice in the gin. If we'd used peppercorns, we feel that would have been too much of a dominant, harsh flavour. So the grains of paradise, they come from Ghana. If you chew them, they are hot and spicy, and you get a very slight sort of tangerine citrus note to them as well. So they add a nice sort of soft, peppery spice to the gin. We then have our licorice root powder. So the licorice root, 30 times sweeter than sugar by weight. If you taste it, really sweet. Not what people think when you think of licorice, like the black licorice. And part of the reason for using the licorice root, which again would be common in most gins, it adds a bit of smoothness and a bit of mouthfeel to the gin as well, a touch of sweetness. We also have the Orris root powder here. The Orris root powder is it's our most expensive botanical, grown in the Mediterranean. The Orris root is the root of the iris flower. So part of the reason it is so expensive, the roots are only about that big, and they take 2 to 3 years to dry out. So once they're fully dried, then they'll powder them down. And part of the reason for using the Orris root, it does have a very slight floral violet note to it, but also it's a fixative. So used by a lot of the perfume houses in the south of France. So as a fixative, again, it just helps keep all the aromas in the gin. So again, we're competing with some of the Chanels and Diors. So that is our 10 botanicals that goes into Mermaid Gin. So they are all put in the still at the same time, 24-hour maceration before we start the distillations, and then we'll have a 7-day rest. And then during that 7-day rest, all the botanical oils will just gradually mellow and marry together, hopefully giving it a softer, smoother gin, and also allowing the higher alcohols to evaporate off. So that's our Mermaid Gin.